My name is Daniel Magee, and I did my project on my Marine Corps Reserve Unit Combat Logistics Battalion 25. Each summer, the United States Marine Corps Reserve has its units participate in an annual training event in order to facilitate the maintenance and improvement of military skill sets of the unit and the individual Marines. This summer, my unit, Combat Logistics Battalion 25, also known as CLB 25, will be providing both direct and general logistics support for a NATO-sponsored annual exercise in the Baltics, specifically in Latvia. The stated purpose of the exercise is to promote regional stability and security, strengthen partner capacity, and foster trust while improving interoperability with NATO partners. The overarching exercise concept will support NATO and coalition interoperability with a focus on preparation of headquarters and troops for the NATO response force and for future operations. The ground supply section of CLB 25 is tasked with ordering and issuing a consumable bill of materials for the entire battalion to support each phase of the exercise and accounting for all the equipment. When planning out the purchasing of the BOM, or the bill of materials, my supply section has utilized the news vendor model, but this has left us with both excess material and shortfalls when it came to the actual mission requirements. This has required our unit to go to a serve mart, which is considered a office depot with a little bit of a military twist. It is not an ideal situation because it proves that we have not planned out well enough. The purpose of this project is to determine how CLB 25 supply should maintain and purchase inventory of consumable supply items in preparation for this year's annual training in Latvia. The supply section needs to provide direct support to the battalion and general support to other units. The supply section tracks and analyzes consumable materials purchased through the year in preparation for the summer annual training. Anything not planned for is built into the budget for going to ServMart and swiping the government purchase credit card out in town if necessary. This summer, when CLB 25 deploys to Latvia, we are loading everything we can fit from our bill of materials into one shipping container that will be loaded onto an Air Force transport plane that will house our entire force for the deployment. There is not a ServMart in Latvia because this is not a U.S. military facility that we'll be training on, and our government credit cards will not work outside of the United States. Our higher headquarters has planned to requisition one card that will work in country, but we will have to request access to the card and plan and justify each purchase. As the CLB 25 supply officer, it is my job to ensure that the supply section is providing supply and maintenance support to the battalion so that they can conduct logistics operations to provide combat service support to the ground combat element. The United States Department of Defense classifies supply items into 9 classes of supply. For this project and for this annual training, the bill of materials will be focusing on Class 2, Class 3, and Class 4. Class 2 is clothing, individual equipment, tools, and most importantly for us, administrative supplies. Class 3s being petroleums, oils, and lubricant, and Class 4 being construction materials. Our Class 8 medical supplies will be supplied by the Navy, as they are the ones who are in charge of the Marine Corps and Navy's medical supplies. This past summer, CLB 25 participated in their annual training for a pre-deployment exercise known as Integrated Training Exercise, or ITX, at 29 Palms in the California desert. This exercise is designed to test and evaluate the critical skills of a combined arms fighting force prior to executing a combat deployment. While CLB 25 is not preparing for a combat deployment, my unit was preparing to be the Marine Corps Reserve's ready battalion if a combat logistics battalion was needed for a mission. During ITX, we had our bill of materials in a container that was on a truck. This truck arrived 5 days late, but in that time we had to go to ServMart and purchase the items that we were going to need anyways to conduct the exercise. That was very costly, and we ended up having some excess materials. But we got lucky that we were able to utilize the ServMart on base and avoid having to use our government credit card out in town. This summer, Combat Logistics Battalion will be participating in annual training in Latvia. Our unit will not be bringing their organic equipment with them and will have to use pre-positioned equipment throughout the European theater. The pre-positioning of equipment and materials reduces the reaction time and removes the need for a unit to bring their organic equipment with them. Such facilities like the caves in Norway and from maritime pre-positioned force ships, which are staged for expeditionary forces, is what we will be utilizing for this exercise. As a result of having to be expeditionary in this exercise, CLB-25 Supply must purchase their bomb materials from a Servmar facility that is over 600 miles away and will require the materials to be shipped to our location via truck. While the lead time from this location is not too bad, if there's any items on back order or if our priority is not high enough, we will have to wait. In previous years, CLB-25 Supply has purchased their bomb using a news vendor model. This has allowed them to stay within budget, but has still provided many shortfalls and resulted in some excess inventory. My proposal is that they need to switch to a continuous review model because while we may not be able to forecast demand for every annual training exercise, we do have historical data and know what our missions will be before we conduct any operations. Most of our consumable supply requirements do not change year to year. By maintaining consumable supplies at each company and reusing a continuous review model, rather than using a news vendor model at the beginning of an exercise, the battalion would be able to support a rapid deployment as well as maintain readiness for annual training. After going through this report with my higher headquarters supply officer and my battalion operations officer, we came to the conclusion that a continuous review model would work for the battalion in support of annual training and other exercises. Mission and region-specific items such as cold weather gear for a winter mission in Latvia, or even box fans for high temperature areas where there's no air conditioning, could still be purchased using a news vendor model. But the overall intent of this project was to prove that using a continuous review model could save the unit lots of money and improve readiness.